Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Hello Culture latest masterclass. A fantastic lineup today for a whole day, but we kick off with our keynote address. Hello Culture in Conversation, as you know, is part of BBC Digital Cities Virtual. Like a lot of things, here we are online, and thanks so much for gathering and joining us today. This event is a very special mashup. It's Hello Culture and Vantage Leadership, a leadership program that Lara, the curator of Hello Culture, and I run for cultural practitioners with who are either neurodiverse, deaf or disabled, to join in the conversation and add their vantage point to cultural leadership. And we are supported this time by Culture Create Central, the agency for all things screen in the region, and we are really highlighting the top digital talent in the area by today talking to Kris Halpin. So as I say, I'm Helga Henry. You hopefully know me from other Hello Culture events. And I'm a cultural consultant, and with Lara, as I say, do a variety of projects. And can I just say, it's really fantastic that a group of us can just get together today, take a pause in our day, and really just convene. It's so easy now with online things to watch it later, see the recording, but it's great that we're, even if we are severally in our various homes, it's great that we're all together. So thank you for that. Over the last few months, as part of Hello Culture, we've been exploring the ways in which artists have continued to tell stories and create their work during lockdown. And this November, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Disability Discrimination Act, we're going to explore the work, as I said, of Kris Halpin. He's a composer, producer, and a musician whose career really had a new lease of life, maybe had a whole new beginning because of Miu Miu gloves, wearable technology, wearable musical instruments. And that instrument was created by the MTFers Imogen Heap and Dr. Kelly Snook. And you'll find out a lot about that in a moment. But can I just take a moment to say hello and welcome, Kris. And before we get started, there are some sort of slightly more technical issues about being with us on a Zoom. I guess if we'd been in person, this would have turned out to be the bit where I tell you about the fire exits. Excuse me a moment. But the best way, closed captions are available by clicking CC at the bar at the bottom. Now there's an option there to either view the full transcript as well as just displaying the scrolling subtitles that will, and also we'll be recording this session. So if you want to watch it again, or for those of your friends who missed it, because they'll be sorry, you'll be able to watch it again on the Hello Culture website. And in fact, a previous Hello Culture in Conversation with Jonty Claypole is now available on that site. So today we're hearing from Kris Halpin for about the first 30 minutes or so. And then in the last 30 minutes, we will be taking your questions. So you'll see the Q&A function down the bottom. Do help yourself, put questions in, and we'll be putting them to Kris towards the end. And we'll try and either bunch them together if there's some similar ones, but we'll try and get to as many as we can. So, Kris, welcome. Hello, lovely to see you. Thanks for joining us. I'm loving, a lot of people have Zoom backgrounds, but you have quite the most interesting real life background. That's fantastic.
Yeah, this is the makeshift lockdown studio. I actually didn't have a home studio before.
Oh, wow.
Necessary to have one.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
It's certainly, it's delightfully colourful. It's quite, I now want to go out and buy lots of colourful keyboards and things for my own office. It's great.
And things. People think it's odd that I keep my pedals up here, but they're not much good to me on the floor, being a wheelchair user. So
get it. Yeah, rolling over them might be a little bit heavy-handed, as it were, heavy-wheeled. So now, and we'll come to talk about this today. As a musician, your instrument of choice is the guitar. But sure. Now you've become known for performing with the Miu Miu gloves. And before we hear more about how that came to be and what happened, can we first see you in action? So this is your own, this is you. So now we're going to go to a video clip of you performing your own work called Koi no Yokan, and we can find out about the title amongst other things. Thank you. So perhaps if we can go to the clip, you'll start to see the gloves in action. Well, Kris and the gloves in action. Enjoy. So, Kris, do you want to just kind of talk us through what's happening here?
Yeah, so this is fun because I think I've done this performance a lot where people have assumed that there's some sort of interpretive dance happening.
Yeah.
But no, what is happening is the gloves have learned a sequence of movements. The gloves know what I'm doing with my hands, and bear with me 1 second. Yes. So it's really quite simple in theory. There's an input. There's a what am I going to do with my hands? Well, how am I going to move to create some music? And then you have to tell it, well, what do you want to come out of the other end? And give it a kind of musical event. That sounds really simple. It does it through a combination of physical senses and artificial intelligence. Everything you're seeing me do is really a musical sound as if I was playing a tangible instrument. I'm not. And can
I just check? Just like a tangible instrument. So now there's a sort of guitar riff going on. If you did that faster or sort of with more force with your hand, would the music come out a bit louder and a bit different, or is that?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So when I say it's not quite haptic, but it's responsive to the force of your gesture. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, exactly. And it is in fact haptic as well, because it's giving me little haptic buzzers to tell me things that the audience doesn't need to know, like the chorus is, you're in the chorus now. Because often I can't, one of the things that's really strange about this is you can't see the instrument. So for example, I might be in, I'm just going to make sure they're switched off before I demonstrate this and make loads. So I might be in drum mode.
Yeah.
Or I might be in guitar mode, but I don't know that because I can't see the drums. I can't see this invisible guitar. So you have a degree of feedback as well. I normally color code my different instruments.
Got you. Oh, right. So you know where you are in the sequence, as it were.
I get a little buzzer as well to go.
Oh, cool.
Remind you where you are. You'll know people who really know my stuff. They'll comment on the color codes and they'll be like, "Oh, when you do that, the drums happen or something." People start.
Right. Yeah. Oh, so it's like little clues for you to watch out for.
Yeah.
So I remember at school, a punishment was that people, you'd go stand in a corner and put their arms, have to hold their arms out for a certain amount of time, and that was like, actually you'd go, that's fine. And actually after a while, it really was quite nasty. So, because obviously you're now using a lot of your upper body, and there's a lot of, so is that quite tiring?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an irony to how my career has ended up, because like I have cerebral palsy, which affects my movement, obviously. And my performances before all this were very, well, they weren't exactly energetic. It was just watching a guy with an acoustic guitar just doing his thing rather earnestly.
Yeah.
In C minor, you know.
Yeah.
And now it's this incredibly physical thing. And at first I wasn't sure how that was going to work or if I could handle it, but I got really excited about that. It became like there became this physical sort of element to it of like being like, might not sound very rock and roll, but being like in shape enough for the
No, I was going to say, do you now feel you have to work out a bit more? Because there's, you know, that's a different thing, isn't it? That actually upper body strength is quite a thing, notwithstanding, you know, you might need it for your wheelchair use or whatever.
Yeah, it's way more physically demanding than the sitting in the club thing that I used to do.
But actually then to make that link, how that came about, tell us about how it kind of came about that you got the gloves, because that was actually to do with the fact that as your cerebral palsy progressed, you were finding it basically hard to hold the guitar, and you know.
That's right, yeah. So I was doing I was very much in that acoustic singer-songwriter kind of format, but I was having more and more problems with my impairment is primarily on my right-hand side. Being my sort of local hero here in North Warwickshire is a singer-songwriter called Nick Drake, who I was massively influenced by. And it's complex stuff. It's lots of finger picking, and I was doing my thing, and it was just, my hands were just getting way worse. And I remember taking, if people know my music, they might know a song called Ratted Me Out, which is a song that like I'm not allowed to not play that song live.
Right. Yeah.
I remember a gig in Coventry where I just took it out of the set because I just knew my hands weren't going to get through it, and I thought, okay, now I'm in trouble. This is
right.
And I was making an album at that time, or trying to, and getting into the vlog thing for the first time, and those vlogs became not about the music but about this impairment that I was facing, even in the studio, even with the potential to record things in chunks and whatever, it was still physically incredibly demanding. And I really didn't know, it sounds dramatic now, but I really felt like I was kind of on the scrappy, but I already had enough access barriers to playing live as it was, with getting on stages and getting, you know, you might have a cool venue that's up some rickety stairs or whatever. And then there was this hand impairment issue that was making it impossible to even play, and I just didn't know what to do. I went to the Twitter, as we do, and I was like, I think I can't be the only disabled musician who's facing some barriers. But growing up in a tiny village, I didn't have that narrative to relate to. And people kept saying to me, you need to talk to Drake Music, a charity in London, that this is what they do. And so I did, and they were really great. There's a technologist there at the time called Gowan Hewitt, who he was the first. He won't thank me for telling you this. He's a record producer. He worked with artists like N-Dubs and stuff. So he was in the industry. He doesn't. He's a bit quiet.
Didn't like to talk about it.
Yeah, and he really got behind the single that I had at the time, and nobody in London in the business had ever really noticed me before. And he really supported me artistically, and it wasn't just kind of just how do we solve this access problem. And we did a lot of experimenting with accessible technology as it stood at the time. And this is something I've said many times with Drake Music. They know that I say this sort of thing. I was underwhelmed, to put it politely. I thought accessible technology at that point, I was like, you know, when I was like 12, 13, I wanted to be Steve Vai, and the idea of sort of waving my hand in front of a light to like play a C major scale, I was like, okay, this isn't going to work for me. I really thought, or you know, playing with an iPad or that kind of thing just didn't fit into my musical vision then. I feel very differently about that technology now, but at the time it was quite, how is this going to work? Around that time, Drake Music were having a conversation with Imogen Heap's team, who were developing this. And it was Gowan who had the kind of light bulb moment that Imogen had kind of accidentally invented this incredible bit of accessible technology, that the idea, access wasn't on their radar in terms of why they created the gloves. Imogen was trying to solve a very different problem. But what Gowan saw, and then I could immediately see, was an instrument that was wearable, that could turn any movement into any sound, then that quality of movement, a guitar demands a certain type of movement. I can't move the keys on the piano to be where my hand would prefer them to be. But with the gloves, I could put anything anywhere and work with any movement. And it was like, oh, this could really work. So by then, Drake Music had kind of talked themselves into, or been talked into joining the Collaborator program, as it was. Imogen was releasing 15 pairs of gloves. So one pair came my way. Another pair went to, you might have heard of Ariana Grande. I don't know if people know.
Yeah, I think she's a young lady who sings the pop music for the young people, doesn't she?
Well, the pop music, yeah, I've heard of her certainly, and she got a pair as well. She does amazing stuff with the Mimi gloves, and so that was it.
And that was that a sort of almost like an influencer thing to give it to somebody very famous, because she hasn't got. Has she got access or disability issues? She hasn't. I don't know.
It's just really, she was a huge fan of Imogen's, and she just had following her, and she knew what she was doing with the gloves. And Ariana's actually really inventive with technology. She's done some great things with loopers and things, and it was just the next evolution for her, I think, to try and to take it to those big arenas and do what she did with it was really exciting. And it helped our cause as well. People knew what.
No, I could imagine. And I know we normally take questions at the end, but there is one from Tom Terrell now. Hello, Tom. Which is, so certainly the first pair you got, they're not custom made per se, but you customize them. Is that the deal?
So Imogen had, the vision was always that they would be something you could go and buy eventually. And the video that you just saw at the start features a prototype pair, which were custom made for me. That was the I was referring to. So 15 of those prototypes were made in 2015. What I'm wearing today is what is now the production model of the Mimi glove, which you can now go and buy finally, which I think as of about a year ago, these have been available. So it was initially very much a custom thing, but now it's evolved into something that, well, everybody wants a pair. So
so and then I suppose that's gonna, so like pre and post gloves, we've got kind of your career took off in a whole new way. And so perhaps you could talk a little bit about that. But I'm guessing although you've gotten over now the problem of being able to hold your guitar or physically get through certain demanding songs, because that's technology. You're still in your wheelchair. You're still trying to play gigs upstairs. Talk us through maybe the ups and downsides of that.
Yeah, it's been really quite interesting. The thing with the gloves is there was so much. I wasn't really prepared in any way for the degree of attention. A thing that really, the night that I got the gloves was going to Imogen Heap's house. I was a huge fan of hers. I'd never met her. I was kind of starstruck about that. Got my gloves. I did an interview with Wired, which became this big 3-page feature, and I hadn't even opened the box yet. The hype of a disabled person's going to use this. It was such an event. And then when I did my first tour, with Independent Venue Week in 2016 in partnership with Attitude Is Everything. And what was supposed to be a week in the UK, that tour ended 18 months later in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center. And the journey that, I wasn't sure how any of that was going to go. In my mind, I borrowed the gloves with view to writing a cool blog post and giving them back to Drake Music at some point. And the phone kept ringing, and I just kept going and playing gigs. And mostly it's been a really exciting adventure. It's not without its problems, of course, with access and venues. I don't know how well that's progressed, in quite honest. A problem that I face, and this is the problem that you want to have, but it really frustrates me when I about the wider issue here. For me, the glove thing happened so rapidly, and the kind of hype of it all was, I went from, playing to 10 people in a pub in Tamworth to, going to Berlin and Tokyo and going to America and playing to literally thousands of people. And what happens when you start playing, if you're playing Birmingham Symphony Hall, you're not going to have any access barriers, because that's like, if they need to get a grand piano somewhere on a big stage, they don't need to worry about stuff like this. Playing the Kennedy Center or Symphony Hall in Tokyo, that's easy. Once you get past a point where
right,
the access barriers are a problem, but it's that route in those
got you.
grassroots venues that.
So you almost leapfrogged. Well, you had your time, so from Tamworth to Tokyo, you had your time. You did your time in the trenches, as it were. But
I don't know if I really paid my dues. I definitely got plucked out pretty
early. But then you leapfrogged some of that to go to those places where, as you say, if they're rolling in a grand piano, they can roll you in.
Yeah.
As it were. Sorry, that didn't mean to sound so flippant.
It's what it is. I'm on wheels too, I guess.
Yeah.
But that route for other disabled musicians, that still concerns me greatly.
Yeah. And so now you are grounded. We're all grounded I was either in a rehearsal or in our prep. You were saying how you missed airline meals. Like you're not on planes anymore, and you've missed that little sort of unwrapping the cheese. I know exactly what you mean. But so now you're in lockdown. I know that's had an effect on a lot of musicians, on not least on their livelihoods, but also on people's well-being. So how has some of the ways that maybe lockdown has affected you personally, and then we'll move on to how what you have done professionally in this time.
I think I've probably, like a lot of people, I've only in recent, maybe in this sort of lockdown too, am I really like understanding the mental health effect of all this. Like I feel incredibly tired. I feel incredibly anxious, as I'm sure most people do. It's been such a long time, and 2019 was full of career highs for me. And I remember thinking towards the end of the year, like, right, 2020, this is it. All my ducks are in order. I'm going to be everywhere. This is going to be amazing. And then very quickly, that all stopped. And for a lot of musicians, I mean, as a live primarily, I'm not even really, I mean, I have my singles out every once in a while, but I'm definitely a live performer, and the reality of my business model and how I put food on the table for my kids is going out and playing these things. That's what keeps us going. That's the job, as it were.
But also, I remember you saying, I think it was on another podcast, that on a practical level, swimming really helps your physical condition, and you can't go swimming because you're not allowed. Just even little stuff like that.
One of the pools, I was able to book some swimming sessions for next week. Yesterday, I was just like, finally, because like being able to, it just changes everything about your life. I made a video. This is wildly off topic, I suppose, but there's a video on my YouTube channel of me going into supermarkets when lockdown was starting to ease, and all the new social distancing measures made it really impossible for me as a wheelchair user to get around. I got stuck in a supermarket because the barriers that they put in between the and there's like there was one wheelchair accessible till that was out of order, and it's a real class.
So at a time when you might think that actually, if you're rethinking the design of things, let's build that in as well, when there might be an opportunity to do that, it's quite
they didn't.
On a happier note, however, you have done some used this time to experiment with your work, do some different things, and in particular work with some young musicians. So tell us a little bit about some of that.
So that's been an interesting journey that I didn't ever think I would be on. It was actually Douglas Noble at Drake Music who first started nudging me towards the idea that as things were going really well with my touring activity and stuff, that young disabled musicians would really benefit from seeing me and working with me and doing and being in a more formal music leader role could offer some unique advantages. There was a great piece in The Guardian that was led by Drake Music. Where are the disabled music leaders? Why aren't more disabled musicians being employed to do that? And I can tell you from experience that there are still access barriers to that, but it's been a really hugely rewarding adventure for me that I've done in partnership with Drake Music, and now I'm really proud to be working in Birmingham finally, after working everywhere except Birmingham. I'm working with Mac Makes Music nowadays, and
Brilliant.
delivering some amazing workshop projects all over the country and locally, and of course mostly online at the moment. But even that is, it's still happening.
So it changes. Yeah, we'll have a little clip in a moment about that. But as you say, that's the clip will be of all of you in a room, but that has moved online, and it hasn't. That we're live today. We're live, and it's great that we've got our audience here with us. And I like to think of us all here looking at our screens wherever we all are. But it has. What does it live mean? Something new in this sense, doesn't it? What does it mean? How does it occur? How does live occur to you now?
Yeah, that is definitely strange, because you're used to people being in a room, whether it's playing a concert or with the workshop stuff that I do. I work with a band of young musicians at the Mac, and a band in a room is a real energy, and a band on Zoom, all in our respective homes, is a very different thing. The first time I did a gig online, I just felt sort of strange about it, really, because I could see that people were watching, and it was people were really excited about it. But I'm just here. I'm just at home. It's
almost, the image I have is like you're in a shop window and you're like performing. There's all these other people on the other side of the glass, and you can sort of tell they like it, but
analogy. I thought it would be. I've made a few music videos. I thought it would be more like that, but it does. I think the shop window is a better analogy, actually.
Yeah.
It just sort of feel like.
You can see these people are enjoying it, but it's just something not quite connecting.
Yeah.
Let's go to that clip though. It's a really fantastic of you with the young people at Mac.
Creative Sounds is a new creative music making opportunity and ensemble for any young person from Coventry or Solihull who may have additional needs.
We've set up this project to give out-of-school opportunities for those young people that are working with us in a variety of special schools and make music with phenomenal musicians, including Kris Halpin, a facilitator of inclusive music practice, and also regional musicians who work brilliantly across all Coventry and Solihull special schools.
Things I'm really excited about is to make music more accessible to young people, creating inclusive ensembles of composition and space to be allowed to grow and explore. There's absolutely no need for any previous musical experience, just a desire to be creative and to express yourself and try something new. There will be lots of accessible technology opportunities to get together with like-minded people. And this could be the start of a really rewarding and exciting adventure for you as a musician.
We're looking for children and young people from 7 and above that have an additional need and would like to make friends, make music and have fun.
Creative Sounds will take place from February 2020 every Thursday at the Core in Solihull, which is by Touchwood, and rehearsals will take place between 5 and 7 p.m.
Thank you. That is great. And as you say, that was a sort of call out video for when everybody was going to come to the Mac and work with you. But this has now moved online, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. But working with young disabled musicians, and some of them, this will be their first musical experience. I'm really passionate about the music being an in to like social engagement and to personal growth, and not just being about. Despite coming from a background of wanting virtuosity, that's not at all what I think about when I think about this work.
No. Well, just the look on that young lad's face as he brought the orchestra up and then down again, and he was like, "Well, I did that. That was, I made that happen." That's really lovely. So there's the workshops with people, but that's not the only thing. I'm delighted now get to channel my inner DJ. You've also made a new single in lockdown called 2 Meters Close, and so maybe you can talk, and we're going to get a chance to hear that in a moment as well. And I was going to say, and you can buy that. And I didn't know, I realized I didn't know how you end that sentence. So it's your new single that you can buy from places you buy singles these days.
Yeah.
But tell us a little about how that came about. Yeah, in the world.
Because I've been, one of the things that I've been really fortunate during lockdown is that I received some funding from Help Musicians UK, the Do It Differently Fund, to support. It was focused on disabled musicians to support them during lockdown. But one of the little perks of, besides the funding, was they sent me on a songwriting course with none other than Kris out of Off Squeeze, which was really, really amazing. Kris had this idea of, there's a photographer called Hannah Grace Della who does some wonderful, she's a nurse, and she's been doing amazing photographs on the kind of front line of the pandemic from the viewpoint of the NHS. And Kris is has been curating songs inspired by her work, and he invited me to write a song during this workshop. I looked through her photos, and she'd coined this phrase, 2 meters close, and I really just fell in love with that. I love the idea. We're always being told to keep ourselves 2 meters apart, and she was like, I hate this. I want to be 2 meters close. And I thought, that's a song title if ever there was one. So yeah, with Kris gently nudging me, I had like an afternoon to write the song, and so I did write this very, very quickly and then recorded it, and now it's out in all of the places where you can get it in our price, or
Woolworths,
Woolworths definitely.
They're shut at the minute though, aren't they, because of the pandemic?
Once lockdown lifts, I'm sure you can pop along
to your record shop, the Discovery. So there's this is a sort of lyrics video, but I understand there might be a music video like We Might Know It is coming.
Music
so keep an eye for that, but it's still lovely, and it was let's see if we can just have a little bit from the 2 meters close video. Thank you. That was so that's available on YouTube, just if you want to catch the lyrics and hear more of that. It's really lovely. Thank you. But I suppose that leads me, well, don't forget we've got questions. So we have got a few questions in the Q&A, but we're moving to that section shortly. I'm going to tease you now, there may be a live performance, technology permitting, of the Miu Miu gloves in action. Sorry?
Yes.
If it works, but we'll just, we'll see. But just before we get to that, just to kind of move us maybe to the future, it's like there has been a kind of digital revolution during the pandemic. Lots of things. We're doing events like this online. There's all sorts of performances in different formats coming. But what are the digital innovations that you think will open up opportunities for the future? One thing I remember you saying during an earlier rehearsal was that now, as you say, when you do the workshops, there's a bit of a time lag depending on people's bandwidth, but actually, I was talking about, could you imagine us trying to go through a pandemic without, 10 years ago? You took the other tack and said, what would it be like in 10 years' time? So what do you think, what are the opportunities that might open up for the future?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in terms of timing, especially, like it might sound really nerdy, but one of the things that myself and a lot of people in our sector have been excited about for a long time is 5G. because faster internet doesn't seem terribly interesting, but internet with lower latency is really significant, because it would allow musicians to play together without that delay. And I found it really frustrating that technology isn't quite ready yet, and we're here, and it's the one thing I would really love to have right now. Delivering stuff online and working with musicians has been like, we're finding ways to make it work. But one of the things that I think is significant is that there are several musicians in my kind of wider circle for whom going out and performing is not realistic for them anyway, regardless of any scenario that's happened in 2020. And I can remember like a year ago talking to a couple of musician friends about how could we perform online? What would that be like? And it seemed such a kind of far off concept, the idea that you could play a gig online and perform from home and people would pay to see you, and that, you know, that could be something that was, we were talking about that a year ago, as like an access need for people who couldn't do that, but it seems so far off. And of course now we've seen all of our favorite artists, you know, I remember Metallica doing a performance where they're all on, you know, Zoom, like in their respective homes, and it's like, this is part of the new normal. And it really caught my attention that something that seemed like, wouldn't this be great for making music accessible, but people would never buy into that, and people kind of have to buy into it to an extent in 2020. And that has opened up opportunities. I'm working with musicians now for whom performing at venues just isn't realistic because of access barriers, and we're actually doing things, working towards performances online. So that is exciting for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of that you'll be able to, and the quality is improving all the time, just in terms of, you know, like, I look, even from the point of view, your home studio now, obviously you're making high quality, you know, like professional quality work, and you know, it's so
again, it's a response to 2020. I would probably have, you know, I'd have been doing this on my phone a year ago or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've all had to scale up and get good at this pretty quickly.
Yeah. So Kris, I think so as a sort of a precursor to some of that, you know, people performing live at home, we are going to see if we can hear a little bit more of the song we heard right at the beginning with the gloves. But just, you did say that when you were on tour, you know, particularly with the prototype, you'd be on the edge of the stage in Tokyo going, oh, I hope the gloves work. So I mean,
yeah, it was a little hairy at times.
So this is a similarly, well, not quite as high, you know, not quite as high high stakes, but this is a similar hairy moment. So if they work, it would be brilliant, and if they don't, we can move on.
The main slightly annoying problem is that the gloves normally are wireless and connect. I can't be on this call and wirelessly connect gloves because limitations of Wi-Fi. So I'm plugged in, and when I rehearsed this morning, I got very enthusiastic with the drumming and managed to unplug them. So that seems to be
so we might have a sort of, you know, we might get carried away and it stop, but that's cool, isn't it?
That's it, right? So let's see what happens.
Let's give it a go, Kris. We're giving you a virtual cheer on. Thank you. Kris Halpin, thank you.
Again. I'm going to get this out of my way so you can see what I'm doing.
You couldn't know, that was a real shop window moment. I'm sorry, you couldn't hear me. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. There is wild applause, I'm sure, going everywhere. Thanks. That was really brilliant. Thank you. It was really moving to see. Thank you. We have got some questions. Just time for a few before we head off. If a musician, first of all, from Shirley, if a musician was given some gloves, so you got some gloves, about how long does it take to learn to use them? And sort of, obviously you've got a pretty good, there's some programming involved, I understand, but what's the sort of time scale for that?
I guess it depends. I made it as hard for myself as I possibly could, because I decided that I wanted to be able to play. I'd already had a process of playing lots of instruments in the studio. So my vision was to take a sort of one-man band approach and have all of the bells and whistles and the drum and everything. So yeah, that I did it the hard way. I feel like it's something that you can put them on and be playing. For example, everyone gets into the air drum thing, and it's something you can get into very organically and very quickly. I think, especially if you've got some sense of the physicality of it. I mean, I know dancers get very excited about it. I'm actually working with a choreographer at the moment to explore that even further. It feels like a real is the wrong word, a traditional instrument, in the sense that there is the thing that we said about it at the start, in the best possible way. It's not easy in the sense that there is a learning curve, but it doesn't feel like the entry point is super difficult.
And then this from Jeff Langston, who said that on the YouTube video of Kono Yokan, you had he said conversation, in inverted commas, I was going to say interaction maybe, with a viewer who suggested that wearable tech is a gimmick and not real. And how often is that common? Do you get challenged about this? And it's the next part of the question I think we've had, but what's your views on the future of wearable tech?
Yeah,
but really, I suppose, how often do you get challenged on this?
Yeah, it's interesting. Not that often. And I find the friction quite fascinating. I remember someone I used to work with actually gave a keynote speech about wearable tech, and they presented one of my videos, and this was at a university, and in the Q&A somebody was like, yeah, but he's not a musician, is he?
He's just waving his hands around.
Yeah, and that really angered my colleague. But to me, that's kind of fascinating that there is this conversation about what qualifies as a real instrument and doesn't. But
and well, also there's a sort of implication in that the tech does all the work, rather than the human wearing the tech.
My life would be so much less stressful if that was anywhere near true.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's nice to surprise people. I remember doing a performance where I did a loop and I made a mistake and it got stuck in the loop, and I said, oh, well, it's live. And somebody came up to me afterwards and they were like, the mistake was the best thing, because I thought you were doing an interpretive dance. I thought you were just moving to the music. And it's like, I'm really sweating up here. This
that was brilliant.
It's real.
I didn't know if somebody, it's come up on the chat, and I didn't know if somebody was selling something to you, but he also asked if you're really happy. Jeff also asked if you're really happy with your iPhone 12 mini. But
a very enthusiastic video on YouTube about the iPhone 12 mini, because my hand impairment means I can't use big my phone's two-handed, so they finally made a phone small enough.
Right.
Yeah. Other phones are available.
Other phones are available. Well, it's all right. I'm going to say a word from our sponsors in a moment, so we're fine for that. But we have had a couple of other sort of comments rather than questions, so we'll pass them on to you. But the last question, feels quite nice, from Joe Carr at Mac, who we gave a shout out to earlier. Hi, I'm really keen to know if Kris only works solo or has ever collaborated in a live gig, and there's more, and if he plans to tour live in a room with audiences 1 or 2 meters close, COVID compliant, in 2021. And she asks this, she says, I'm finally programming live events again for Mac, Kris, and we are very keen to have a strong focus on regional artists and makers. So, and that's Kris and Joe, I definitely think that's a conversation. But back to your first, you've just talked about collaborating with a choreographer. Do you, in your gigs, do you tend to work solo, or do you also work in the sort of with other musicians?
It's almost exclusively been a solo show, because that was kind of the the point of it. I have done some band ensemble stuff. It's tricky because, like, when you're playing with a band with traditional instruments, I can remember being in a room and people would say, okay, cool, so this one goes B minor, A to G, and they'd start playing, and then they'd look at me like, why aren't you playing? And it's like, because I've got about an hour of programming ahead of me if I want to just like...
Right, yeah. It's not quite so...
Just conjure it out of literally thin air. So I think, like, the programming side of it and getting a digital instrument like this to slot neatly into a band is harder. There was another part to the question. Yes, I'll be back on the road literally the second they let us out.
Right, marvelous. Well, that's, yes, I was going to say you're itching for that.
Of course.
Maybe this one's just snuck in at the end from Alice Parsons. I think we've covered this, but what do you think the future of music will look like for disabled artists? What other projects and technologies being developed, and would you like to be developed? And is AR and VR helpful? I think you covered a lot of that, but best maybe, you know, like other technologies available. And is that you know, back to Drake? Should people be talking to Drake? Where can people go for some help on this?
I'm going to completely contradict everything I've said, and I'm going to say that my interest is less about the technology at this point and more about the visibility of disabled artists and the importance of being taken seriously. There's still, even on the first leg of the tour, there was still kind of, there was a bit of an air of novelty for some people of like a guy in a wheelchair having a go, and that's kind of cute. And I'm trying my best. I'm trying to make really great stuff. I'm definitely not just here to, you know, tick a box.
Well, it's not a Britain's Got Talent, or hasn't he got an interesting backstory kind of thing, is it?
You know, I'm really sweating here. So I think visibility is really important. AR and VR I think is really exciting for live performance, especially in terms of lockdown. Very early stages, but there will be an AR VR experience with myself and the gloves. It's happening. In 2021. I can tell you that much, and not much more. We're working on it.
That's fine. Well, I'm sure we're all really keen on keeping our time. I think we're pretty much out of time now, but you know, Kris, I really enjoyed talking to you. It's been really fascinating, and thank you for your time. And the performance was really fantastic. So thank you very much. Also, thank you to Lara and Kris, who are programme curators of Hello Culture and the BBC Academy. So this is part of the Digital Cities virtual programme. And this morning's masterclass has been in partnership with Vantage. And I'm going to get this right this time rather than say something a bit vague. Oops. Oh, sorry. This has been with the Advantage Leadership Programme. Great to see some people from the Advantage Programme in the participants, and Create Central, who have been sponsors of this event. And they are the home, they're an industry-led body for creative content. And Kris, we were delighted to feature as an international artist, but who is resident here in the West Midlands. So making that creative content and spreading it around the world. Make sure you check the Digital Cities virtual website for more information about the other classes that are happening later in the week. And today there's more arts and Hello Culture. When this was the brunch slot, we've now got the lunchtime slot in about an hour with Joe Verrant from Unlimited, and a panel who want to go beyond the common perceptions of disabled practitioners and explore how artists are using technology and digital to redefine practice, access and audience. That's We Are Not Your Metaphor. Taking this time when a lot of able-bodied people going, oh yeah, we understand a bit more what it's like now because of the pandemic. Well, we're not your metaphor is what's coming through loud and clear from disabled artists. There's a link in the chat for you to book. Thank you, Kris. Thank you, Wendy, for providing closed captions throughout this event. I hope for those of you who've used them, I know how vital they are for people's participation, and I know you'll want to now join. Oh, sorry, heads up. The event after lunch is now full, but again, you can catch this and the panel discussion when we put them on the website in due course. Kris, have an amazing end of lockdown. I hope to see you in person, 2 meters close, really, really soon. that single's dropping. I know singles drop. I know that much. Thank you
that.
all so much. Good
Very
luck.
much.
Great to see you. And thank you all for coming. That's all we have time for today. Thank you. Oh, sorry. And thanks to Gareth, our technician. I nearly forgot you. Thanks, Gareth, because he's just about to cue in the end graphic sting. So good time to say thanks. Cheery bye.